I'm Robert Lane, and today I'm going to talk to you about backflow, what it does, and show you what happens in a typical backflow test. Here we have a very special backflow. It is a Wilkins 975 XL2. The XL2 means it's lead-free. And if you don't know what a backflow is, basically it's designed to protect the public water system. Here we have the water coming from the main in the street, and that's the public water supply. The water comes up out of the ground. It goes through a one-way valve called check valve. This is check valve 1, and then it flows along. It goes through a second check valve 2, and then it goes back down and into your house. In between check valve 1 and check valve 2, we have a relief valve. So in the event that the water pressure changes in the street, say somebody runs over a fire hydrant and it goes from 70 psi in the street down to 50, well, you would still have 70 pounds of pressure in your house, and it would flow backwards back into the street. And if you had a bucket of water with some soap in it, there's a possibility you could siphon some soap or chemicals back in, and it would get in the public water supply, and then your neighbor would drink it, and all kinds of havoc break loose. So if the pressure in the street does drop, that water that's now higher pressure in your house comes back, and this one-way valve would stop it. But if that one-way valve doesn't stop it, it would come to this relief valve, and it would dump to the ground. And if that didn't stop it, you have another one-way valve before it would go back into the street. The way this relief valve works is probably one of the reasons why we have to test it, that in the check valves. These are spring-loaded valves. We have to make sure that they're sealed tight, both of them, and we have to make sure that this check valve opens properly when it's supposed to. The way it works is there's a spring in here holding back some of the water pressure as it comes into your house, roughly 5 to 10 psi. So that means that on this side, the water pressure is 5 to 10 psi lower than on this side because of the action of that spring. Here we have a diaphragm, which is a way for the water to push this mechanical, the diaphragm uses water pressure to hold the relief valve closed. So because the water pressure is 5 to 10 psi higher on this side, the pressure on the diaphragm pushes this closed so it doesn't dump to the ground. On this side, because you have lower water pressure, it's never gonna overcome that higher pressure. So there's a spring to help it a little in the balance between, it's like a tug of war kind of push and pull. So at some point, if this water pressure goes lower, that's called the differential, like the higher pressure on this side and the lower pressure on this side. At some point, when these two pressures begin to equalize, there's a point where that spring has enough force to push this relief valve open and dump on the ground. So that's how it works. And there's little springs and things, and it's just, that's what needs to be checked, because there's moving parts and mechanical stuff. So, sometimes they fail. They get jammed up for one reason or another. Some sand gets on the check valve, and then it won't hold tight anymore, so it'll leak, and then the whole operation of it, it'll start to drip, or it'll just stay shut no matter what, and that's why we test them every year. Okay, so when I show up at a house, first thing I do is I text people and I say, "Here you go, I'm here to test the backflow. The water's going to be off for a minute." And I'm going to go through a typical test right now, okay? So the first thing we do is we vent. These are called test cocks. 1, 2, 3, 4. They go in an order of flow from the city to the house. So I'm gonna go ahead and open these up. 4, 3, 2, 1, and then I'm going to close them in opposite order. 1, 2, 3, 4. Now I'm going to add my special fittings that allow the hoses on my gauge to fit on there. I'm going to try not to strangle myself with my hat. Here we go. So I'm applying these fittings. Now I can connect the hoses on my differential pressure gauge. Throughout the test, most of what I'm checking is the differential pressure across the number 1 check valve while I'm checking the things. So I've already vented, and I'm ready to go. I open up. This is called the low pressure side. I open the low pressure side and flush the hose out. Now I slowly open the high pressure side. You see my gauge is pushing over. There's like a push-pull. This kind of represents what's happening with the diaphragm. When I open that high pressure side, it pushed the needle over this way because it has higher pressure than the low side. There we go. Now on a hot day like today, I might be a little sloppy with it. You know, this is like oops, oops, oops. Just to cool off a little. But while the water's flowing, I go ahead and I turn off. This is called the number 2 shutoff valve, that being the number 1. This is the second shutoff valve. And during this period, there's no water pressure in the house. That's why I always warn people. So now, I can look at it, and I have about 9 psi-D, a differential of about 9 psi. So that means the water pressure's 9 psi lower on this side than it is on this side, which is good. I vent my hose, tighten it up. See, what I'm doing here is I'm connecting the 2 sides, and I'm going to equalize the pressure on either side of this diaphragm. So I got like 9.2. I open this 1 full turn, and then I slowly open this, not more than a 1/4 turn. And I watch as the needle drops down, 6. I keep my hand under here so I know when it releases its first drips of water. It's slowly dropping now. It's 3.6, 3.2. Wow, right there, about 2.9. And you see the water coming out? So at 2.9, the spring pushes that diaphragm back and it opens up. All right, so it appears to be 9 psi differential across the number 1 check, and the relief valve opened at 2.9. So now I'm going to route this high pressure water through my gauge, and I'm going to go straight to the back side of the second check valve. That's the, closer to your house. And I'm going to vent the hose. And now open that up, and I'm going to introduce high pressure water to the back side to see if it holds. Oh, look at that. So I know it's holding because it's not dripping down here. If it wasn't, the water pressure plus the spring would push that open and the relief valve would dump. So there we go. I reestablished the low pressure zone, and I look. What did I say, 9.1 or something? It's about 8.9. So this is what they call the actual differential pressure across the number 1 check. And it's about 8.9. The relief valve opened at 2.9, and the water pressure right now is 75 psi. So now I can close all of these test cocks and remove my equipment. And then I can slowly, I'm going to remove my equipment like I said. And then, so I don't do water hammer in the house and blow something up, I'm going to slowly introduce water pressure back to the house. Just going to slowly open this up again. And I don't hear any hissing or anything, so they probably didn't even use the water. Probably didn't even know I was here. So that's that. And that's how you test a backflow. That's what backflow is all about. I'm Robert Lane, Claremont Kearney Backflow. Give me a call, or actually send me a text if you need me to test your backflow. I'll give you a good price, and yeah, that's about it. Thanks, have a great day.